Okay, welcome to High Vibration. Um, I'm glad to have Dr. Bob Rosenthal, the author of From Plagues to Miracles, which is a wonderful book that I really enjoyed reading. I'm going to initiate. Whoops, there's Marcy Fawcett. Let's get Marcy in. Hello, Marcy.
Hello.
How are you?
Great, thanks for joining us. We just started. This is Dr. Bob Rosenthal, and that's a picture of Dia, but
Hi.
Dia isn't really here, so maybe she is. Who knows? But anyway, we
Yeah, I don't have
started.
Diane's picture, but
What's that?
Marcy's coming through great.
Good. So, I was just saying that it's an honor to have all of you here. Dr. Bob Rosenthal is the author of From Plagues to Miracles, and trust that we'll have some miracles and get rid of the plagues here. And in order to do that, I'm going to start off before Bob talks with the intention of letting the perfection, the divine perfection, filter through in whatever way it would like to do that. So for a moment, I'm going to surrender the body-mind to the silence. Take a breath. And simply trust the comforter. Got a little bit of an echo. I think that's because all of our volume is up, but we kind of need it because Bob couldn't hear it, so we'll go with the echo. So the high vibration, what's the highest vibration? It's who we are. We're created in the image of God, and that's the divine Christ. That's not the physical body. This is just a temporary vehicle. The body-mind that we generally use is a conditioned mind, and it's not the reality. So we're on the journey of, while we're here in time and space, surrendering everything, including all the conditioning, everything that comes up. Since it's not us, really, just let it be and love it. Or let the love that's behind everything embrace it all. And that's the return to the journey of the truth. The ego, which is edging God out, has made the world real. It's not. We're in a movie. We're in a temporary movie here. So that brilliance that put 400 billion galaxies into existence and runs them with ease, I think it's a lot of wisdom to surrender that which is temporary to that which is real and perfect. So I'm going to close with that before I introduce Bob, but I would like to read a brief poem that I wrote just recently in my favorite book, The Way of Mastery, which is very much like A Course in Miracles, but seems to be attracting me now. And my poem says, "So beautiful is God and God's plan, the holiness of I Am, which is ever operating and bringing perfection to every piece of seeming imperfection. It only takes acceptance, trust, surrender, allowance, and non-judgment to begin to experience the grace of all graces. Everything is perfectly in place, knowing that you are going home, and in fact, you are already there. Be aware. Be aware. Be aware of the dazzling mystery of the moment. So I surrender Michael's ego about the poem. I surrender everything, the ego's desire for recognition, surrender all that nonsense, and simply sit a moment in the silence. And allow the love that permeates the universe to express whatever it would like to express through this body-mind. So thank you for that precious time, Source Self. I will now pass the baton over to Bob, and please share what high vibration is for you, or anything you want.
Thanks, Michael, and thank you for the poem. When you asked me to talk about high vibration, how do we raise our vibration, the first thing I thought about was that as someone who, at this point in my life, after having explored many, many spiritual paths, is pretty much a dedicated and devoted student and teacher of A Course in Miracles, I have to look at that question and begin to explore it from the perspective of A Course in Miracles. Now, as I know you're already aware, A Course in Miracles is a non-dual spiritual system. That essentially means there is only one reality, capital R. That's the reality of God, of oneness, of love, capital L. That's all that exists, all that's ever existed, all that ever will exist. And therefore, this whole lovely contraption of a world that we find ourselves in with, 7 billion bodies and separate personalities and counting is illusion. From the understanding of A Course in Miracles, it never happened. There was one instant where some aspect of the mind of God's Son fritzed out and thought that it was separate from God, and because mind is an all-powerful creator, that became real for that aspect. So when we look at, I'm sorry? Okay, I think I've got an echo going on here too now. When we look at the idea of raising our consciousness and vibration from that perspective, we realize there is nothing to be raised. As your poem indicated in the meditation, at the level of our true beings, we're already perfect. We're already one. There is no Michael. There's no Bob. There's nobody else out there because there is no out there. So therefore, there's nothing, no vibration to raise, and we're all good, and we can, just go home. Unfortunately, we don't believe that that's true, even if intellectually we really do believe it. And so, stuck here in illusion with you and everybody else, the question of what about your vibration? How do we raise that does become more germane. But I would further qualify it and say, well, what does it mean to raise one's vibration? If all there is oneness and illusion, then as I would think about it, the only legitimate meaning raising the vibration would have is being less stuck in illusion and perhaps closer, even though we recognize closer as a relative term, being closer to the oneness that is God. So anything that allows us to remove obstructions to reality, to, in a sense, bring forth that oneness, that lovingness, that reality that we already are into the world of illusion, or to be more accurate in Course terms, bringing any aspect of the illusion towards the oneness that is God, that's raising our vibration. Because in fact, even the terms higher and lower, they're relative terms. They belong in the world of form and illusion. Within the oneness of God, there is no higher, there is no lower, there is no better, there is no worse. It's just one. One has no divisions. But so here, are we more stuck in illusion, or are we on our way to oneness? How do we know that? Well, A Course in Miracles says there are only two emotions, love and fear. As part of love, there's also peace that passeth understanding. And so we have this wonderful little litmus test by which to know where our vibration is, so to speak, and how we're doing. Are we running more fear, or are we running more love? When we think about people in our lives, do we generally feel, even when they disagree with us, even if they're being a pain in the butt, that, yeah, they're on their path, and to the extent that we can love them, or rather access that within us, which is love, which has nothing else that it can do but love them, then, we're doing what Spirit wants us to do. On the other hand, if we find ourselves getting pulled into the stickiness of us and them, that zero-sum game where if they win, we lose, if they're higher, we're lower, if we're getting trapped in that, then, well, you know what? That's actually okay, too, because that simply becomes another forgiveness opportunity, another opportunity to recognize, there is something sticky here. I'm getting attached. I'm not able to maintain my sense of inner peace around that situation and circumstance. And therefore, I have to recognize that stuckness and essentially at least make the commitment that I would like to release that to Spirit. In the commitment itself, all kinds of things get mobilized, and and indeed, in the fullness of time, I am convinced that we will be released from that particular attachment. It may take some time. I over the summer I was doing a workshop on A Course in Miracles, and led the group through a very powerful forgiveness exercise. And at the end, one of the participants came up and essentially said to me, well, what if I can't forgive this person because they did something horrible to me? And I immediately, of course, I'm a psychotherapist. I've been in this situation before. They, were abused by someone in the past. And I said, that's fine. Would you want to forgive them if that were possible at some point in the future? Well, of course I would. All right, well, just hold on to that for now. I've worked with people who in fantasy had to go through all kinds of imagery and rage and hatred before getting to a place of saying to themselves, you know what? It did happen. I escaped. I'm okay. The person who abused me is dead, or they're no longer in my life. I can let it go. So if we have awareness that we're not in peace, if when we have that awareness, we recognize it as an opportunity to move further towards peace, to bring another part of the illusion back into alignment with oneness, and if we then make a commitment to do that and realize that movement comes not from our ego minds, not, I'm going to forgive that SOB no matter what, but from a place of forgiveness to ourselves first, perhaps, then we're in the business of raising our vibration. So in terms of my book, From Plagues to Miracles, the transformational journey of Exodus from the slavery of ego to the promised land of Spirit. There, I got it all out. This is what raising the vibration is. When I'm talking about plagues, I'm really just talking about any place in our life where things don't seem to be going the way we want them to go, the way we expect them to go. And when we run into plagues, we have an opportunity. In Exodus, I see the Pharaoh representing the ego mind. He's this king, this ruler. He thinks he's master of the universe. And he proudly proclaims that he knows absolutely nothing of God. Whereas Moses is just this guy who was, out pasturing his father-in-law's sheep when he sees the burning bush and hears the voice for God. And the voice for God tells him, Moses, your task is to go into Egypt and confront Pharaoh and set your people free. Well, isn't that the spiritual task of each of us? To go inward into the Egypt of our minds and to set ourselves free. Now, in Hebrew, the word for Egypt is Mitzrayim, which means a tight, narrow, constricted place. I know of no better description of the ego. It's tight, it's narrow, it's constricted, it believes that it's separate from everybody else, it's cut off from God, it sees the world with, very narrow blinders on, it sees the world only through the lens of the past, and it won't let that go. So there's our job. When we're using the ego's vision, we see the world of Egypt, a world of bondage, and what do we get as we start moving on our spiritual journey? We get plagues, but the plagues are our wake-up call. The plagues show us where we have not yet let go. And without the plagues, either we're completely enlightened, in which case you don't need to be listening to all of us talking anyway, or we realize, here's something else that I need to do. Here's another place to welcome my world into the world of spirit. And within each plague is a hidden miracle. I think one of the beauties of Exodus is the recognition that the plagues don't happen to the Hebrew people. We are the Hebrew people. The plagues happen to the ego mind. It's only a plague if you're seeing it through the perspective of ego. And I would even go so far as to say this includes sickness, this includes death and dying. We don't know the bigger plan. That's above our pay grade. That's up to spirit. That's up to the comforter. What we can do is say, help, I'm open. I've let go of my understanding of what I think I need in this world, and I want to know what you think. And when we do that, we can find the miracle within the plague. There's there's so many wonderful places, and of course in miracles, but there's one that says, something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, whatever the ego tells you that you think you should need, it's wrong. You're in trouble. So, if you live long enough, as all of us have done, you've had false goals and desires. We've had things that we were sure would make us happy, whether that's the partner of your fantasies or, for me at one point, selling a screenplay and winning Best Original Screenplay Academy Award, not too much of a reach there, or, making whatever, $10 million. We've all had these, and the beauty is, if you don't get it, you get to see how attached you were, and that you can find peace and love perfectly well without it, and that if you do get what you thought you wanted, you get to discover that, shoot, it didn't work in the first place. You're still you. You're still waking up the next morning. You still have aches in your body. Things don't go right in other areas. It's funny, in my psychotherapy practice, I notice often that those who have plenty of money and don't have to work on it, their relationships are terrible. If someone has a beautiful relationship, money is an issue. Or they have money and they're great relationship, but they have a kid who has terrible issues. The game of ego is a game of whack-a-mole. You can cover it in one place, but the ego will show up somewhere else. So I guess in terms of, raising that vibration, what I would say is if we follow the path of, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to eliminate gluten, I'm going to go vegan, I'm going to meditate for at least 30 minutes in the morning and the night, I'm going to do the most difficult yoga poses that I can, I'm going to go through my day forgiving absolutely everybody I meet, I'm going to read the great sages, blah, 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 that you're fooling yourself, because there is no doing that gets us to that higher vibration. It's not a matter of doing, it's a matter of undoing. We are the ones who have erected the obstacles to the awareness of love's presence. We are the ones who are in our own way. What perfect timing on the soundtrack. There's an obstacle. So in that sense, we are the only ones who can undo that. So first, we have to look at where we've set up false idols, things that, golden calves that we think we want. Then we have to recognize how none of those have ever worked before, that, the ego's goals for us will only hurt us. then we have to start noticing where we have been open and miracles have taken place. A difficult relationship suddenly transformed, and they really can and do this. I see this frequently. Or that obstacle that you thought was in your way, suddenly the Red Sea parts, and it's just not there. And you walk right through it to a state of being that you never could have imagined would have been the case. You don't have to do manifestation exercises. You don't have to visualize your ideal house and your ideal place with your ideal partner and your 2 1/4 ideal children. That's not how it works. Now, if you are at the beginning of your spiritual path and you believe that the world out there is real, then some of those manifestation exercises might be very valuable in showing you that you're not the victim of the world you see, that in fact you made the world you see, you invented it. And therefore, the idea of those kinds of manifestation miracles can be very powerful. They're like the burning bush. I remember manifesting a car early in my career and how great that felt. At this point, I don't think I could manifest a car if I wanted to, because it would set me back. It would be like, well, why do I want to? And why is that so important? And why have I made that an idol? So at different places on the journey, different things come to us. And I think the most important thing is the willingness to accept guidance. Anyone who's in a 12-step program, the prototype being Alcoholics Anonymous, knows that you can't overcome that addiction on your own. You have to let go and let God. You have to turn it over to a higher power. In From Plagues to Miracles, I talk about how far do we go before we hit bottom as ego addicts? Because we all believe that the ego is helping us. We all believe that good judgment is something we rely on. We all believe that we should have a 401k and put as much money into it as possible. We all believe that, we know how the world works and there are good guys and bad guys. Well, actually, we don't know much of anything. And when we can step back and let Spirit lead the way in whatever form we know it. If you want that to be the image of the Buddha, that's fine. If you have some, abstract sense of higher power, that's fine. If you like the idea of an anthropomorphic God with a big long white beard and a white robe, well, that's a problem. No, just kidding. That's fine too. But the idea that you don't know what will make you happy, because you are an ego addict and you've been mainlining ego since you were about a year old, as you let go of that and let the wonderful fullness of Spirit come into your world with the miracles that demonstrate that that's happening, then you're raising your vibration. One final metaphor, and then I'll stop talking here. I like a computer metaphor in the sense of we run the ego's operating system. And we've been running it, as I said, since we're about a year old. And we keep asking, why isn't it working? When we run the ego's operating system, how come we always get the wrong answer? And we go about trying to input a different question and another different question, a different problem. But we always get the wrong answer. So at some point, if you realize that you're always getting the wrong answer, you must realize that there has to be another way, which is what the two scribes of A Course in Miracles, Helen and Bill, got to. Bill said to Helen in the intensely competitive atmosphere of Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons, there must be a better way. Or as A Course in Miracles puts it, tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to realize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. That's the moment of hitting bottom. So when we hit bottom, we go, oh, you know what? I want to install a different operating system, or I want to install an upgrade. What I have isn't working. And when we install Spirit's operating system, now we start getting the right answer. But our computer isn't quite up to snuff yet, and so it keeps reverting to the old operating system. And this is the beauty of feedback. This is back to the story of Exodus. If we're running ego, we're going to get plagues. If we run Spirit, we're going to get the right answer. We're going to, the Red Sea is going to part. We're going to move forward. And at some point, we will find ourselves in the promised land. The promised land, I would say, is that place of the highest vibration we can get to while we are still in a body, believing that we are a separate, distinct personality. It's that place where we see the oneness within everyone else. We look past the physical form and see the light and love shining from within the eyes of the other and know that that is us. And when we get there, our only function is to share that with everyone else and teach. That's forgiveness. That's atonement, that's enlightenment, and that's the goal. So I think that pretty much sums up what I would say about raising our vibration and my understanding about how to go about it. Let me turn it back over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Bob, for that wisdom. I have a feeling that there might be some questions to what you shared. And we have
absolutely.
Bob has about 15 or 16 minutes. So to give you that time frame, Marcy, I have a feeling you might have something you wanted me to ask or comment about.
I actually don't. I totally agree with him.
Wow, that is so fantastic. You've made a tremendous lot of what'd you say? Understanding since we last spoke, because you had some really serious plagues coming to you. So the fact that you don't have any questions is pretty powerful indication that you're accepting miracles.
Let me say something about that for a second. No, go ahead, Marcy.
Can I say something about that? I was in a 4-car pileup, and I taken my very old car that I've taken great care of for years, was pushed in on the back and the front, and the insurance company is trying to total it, and I was, and that's resistance. And I don't want to hold on to resistance. It's all about letting go of resistance and staying in peace and love and being grateful for everything in the world. I walked on the beach today for hours and just thanked God for the joy and the beauty. And I'm just so grateful to be so blessed in my life and have everything that I have, to be here, to be with the people, to be able to help the people that I help in some small way, and it's all about letting go of resistance, staying in peace and love and gratefulness.
Thank you. Part of what I was going to say, and I can say, helping the people you help in some small way, well, there is no degree. If you're helping them, it's big, no matter what. There's no order of difficulty in miracles, and there's no order of difficulty in plagues. And what I mean by that is the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who went through the German concentration camps, so as we egos see it, that's probably as big a plague as it can get, said everyone's pain is maximal. It fills up all the space we have. So whether your car's totaled, you've lost a job, or you're just having a bad hair day and your boss happened to notice it, for you, that is the plague, and that then becomes the opportunity for forgiveness, for letting Spirit direct you, for making the choice to use that other operating system. And, again, our ego comes in. I mean, I have people I work with, they're like, well, why should I feel bad? Because, my friend, Vicky, she has, cancer or this. And it's like, well, you can't compare. Vicky's cancer is something Vicky has to deal with. Your problem is what you have to deal with. Whatever plague is before us, whatever hardship, whatever obstacle, that's what we're supposed to be working on. And we know we're supposed to because it's in front of us. In fact, I think a very great ego diversion is to worry about what's 2 years in front of you. Well, gosh, if I start getting enlightened, then, what do I do with, would I still love my children? Let that go. That's not relevant. What's right in front of you is what's most relevant. And, choose a miracle. Choose to bring whatever hardship you're struggling with to Spirit.
It's so simple. And you say because of the complexity of from the beginning of when we were born on, but it probably includes past lives. And according to Brian Graham, we've had 2,500 on this planet alone. So there's been a lot of indoctrination into the trickeries of ego, and even the ones that you don't see, the subtle subconscious ones that come along that make judgment and do all that stuff. So it's a pretty tenacious monster, even though it's completely unreal. And we've been listening to its unreality. So really, I've just as you've been a student of the Course in Miracles, I think I've read this book, A Way of Mastery, which is very much the same thing, about 8 or 9 times, and I'm still getting value every single time I read it. And one of the things I just read, every single moment is extraordinarily valuable. There's no time, which is not an enormous opportunity to choose the Comforter, to choose the Holy Spirit, to choose the true identity. So we're very fortunate, and everyone is. But I really thank goodness that I'm on this journey and that I know about it, rather than I don't know about it. Which, thank you. it's great.
Yeah.
We're on the real journey, and I think that not us, but we've been a vehicle to opening for a great service for the Spirit to put out. I mean, I don't know who's going to hear this, who's heard it, who won't hear it, but the vibration is in the energy. It's out, and it will serve wherever it needs to serve, because as I am lifted up, as we are lifted up, so everyone is lifted up with us, because we're all one. So I'm very thankful that a great service has been done here. Anything else? We still have a few moments, still about 9 minutes. If there's any other questions or comments that anyone wishes to put forth.
I would just, reiterate something you said. This life does seem extraordinarily complex, and I think the older we get, the more so. I used to think, when I get through this year, everything's going to straighten out. When the kids are this age, it's all going to be different. And discovered over and over and over that not only wasn't that true, things just got more seemingly complicated. I think at least in the United States, we all suffer from what I call summer vacation syndrome, which is we grow up where we have the school year, and it's like, okay, but once I get, into mid-June, I get a break, it's over, I can relax. And that's so imprinted on our psyches that we think we're going to get through it. But it gets more and more complex. However, that's all the dance of Maya. That's the world of illusion. And when, I don't care if you've had 1,000 past lives that were the worst past lives that, any splinter off of God ever had, it doesn't matter, because the only moment in time that's really true is the present, the now. And when we realize that, the whole teaching of A Course in Miracles crystallizes down beautifully to the very last section of the text, which is called Choose Once Again. And it essentially says, there's no sin. Any place where you had a plague and didn't find that miracle and the plague escalated, you get to choose once again. You get to experience the feedback, as we talked about earlier, and see that ego's operating system did not get you where you want to be. and make a different choice. It's as simple as that. And so we live in this eternal present. In fact, I think the ego's greatest trick, or if we were using a different vernacular, the devil's greatest trick, is to convince us of a past and a future when all there ever really is this present moment, and we all share it, and we're all in it together all the time, because it's the only time there is. So it being the only time there is, the present is the only doorway back to God. You know, it's that gateless gate, and we find it at any moment where we go to awareness and where we choose once again. So, Michael, you're absolutely correct. We can undo any past life. We can undo any present life. This is the beauty of the power of grace as opposed to the path of karma. Karma, you're undoing it one thing at a time. You know, I killed that person in a past life. Now I come back and, you know, and I'm going to save them from drowning and repay that. The path of grace wipes it all out at once, realizing that they're no separate than you are, and that the love that you bring in through spirit is equally powerful and equally healing for anyone and everyone that you encounter, including and perhaps especially those that we don't even know. So I loved what you said, Michael, about, yes, just sitting here talking, even if, you know, we're the only 4 people who ever view this, doesn't matter. The vibe is out there, and I have to believe, I know that it's doing something good out there in the world of illusion.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like closing time, unless anybody else wants to sneak in a comment or a question. And let's just expand prayerfully that we continue to surrender to reality, that simplicity, and no judgment about what seems to pop up. We can be completely transparent. We can have the most monstrous thought, oh, look at that. As long as we have that simplicity that what is real and what is not real, I think it can go very easily if you have the practice, and we do need the practice of re-choosing, choosing again and again and again to surrender to that which knows and that which is and that which is real, and let go of any kind of passing picture or fancy that comes up with interest. And I think, again, that what you speak about being in the now, I mean, this is a mystery to feel it. I mean, it's fascinating, whatever it is that's going on. So I'm sure we'll keep learning, and because the reality of who we are is infinitely knowable. So it knows all things, does all things well, and let us again, in our body-mind, surrender to the one that God created us to be. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here. It's been a great pleasure and joy. And we'll see you on the inner, definitely. And who knows, maybe we'll see each other on the outer, too, as well. Peace out.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Blessings.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.